If you live in the real world, you want to hear what Dr. Bruce Rubenstein has to say.
If you live in the spiritual world, you will want to hear what Rabbi Shea has to say.
We may agree,
And we may disagree.
but you want to hear both views.
So let's get right to it. Welcome back to another discussion between the rabbi and the therapist. Rabbi, I don't know, today, for some reason, I'm feeling really, really tense. So I had this idea. I want to know what you think of it. How about if I sit here and I do a little transcendental meditation? What do you think of that idea?
First of all, just those two words,
Yeah.
to me, I'm allergic to those two words.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, my background is I was a culty programmer for 10 years of my life. So just
Really?
using that, and if we want to talk about meditation,
Yeah.
we can talk. But I'm gonna share one or two interesting studies that have been made from Israel. One of those studies from Israel that really show that their claim
Yeah.
is not as good as they.
Okay. I mean, we're not going to focus exclusively on TM, but I want to hear about these studies. I just want to make sure you're calm enough and won't get too excited. You said you could go into shock, and I don't have an epinephrine pen with me. So I want to make sure that you're calm enough to tell the stories. Yes?
I'll be okay.
Okay, great. Let's hear about the studies from
If not, we can have a little bit of action.
Okay,
After all,
fair
I mean,
enough.
come on, we have
Let's
to,
go for it. Okay.
People, what do you think people are turning into us? They have to have someone has to lose it on the set.
I know. Well, the Rabbi and Therapist Ultimate Fighting series comes later. For now, tell us about the Israel studies.
In the 1970s,
Mhm.
There was a tremendous wave in the city of Tel Aviv, but throughout Israel, that they came with this big innovation that people are going to meditate, and meditation is going to bring them to relaxation.
Mhm.
And Israel Television did a study. I'm saying it a little bit quick.
Yeah.
Did a study that a person, a young man, a Jew who davens in the morning with talis and tefillin,
Yeah.
and his davening, his chakras takes him 1/2 hour, had the equal benefit to a person who actually meditated for an hour, I
Really?
believe it was. Yeah. So does meditation have certain qualities and certain benefits? The answer is yes. Do we need to meditate to receive those benefits and qualities? That's a very different story. And I'm suggesting, and we'll talk about positive meditation in a moment,
Sure. Mhm.
but what I refer to as religious meditation or spiritual meditation, I'm allergic to those terminologies, words, and practices.
Well, listen, I can understand why. I can tell you from the psychological perspective that many people have had significant emotional breakdowns when they've gotten too involved with meditation, even to the point that I don't know if it's still in existence, but Brown University established a separate subdivision of the Department of Psychiatry. It was a house for people who had gotten so deeply steeped into meditation that they really lost touch with reality, and they needed to be kind of reprogrammed back. Interesting enough, by the way, the psychiatrist who ran it happened to be Jewish and was Shabbat observant, but that really was kind of besides the point. So the dangers are clearly there. However, why even get...
I'll repeat that again, because I think that's very, very important.
Yeah.
So you're saying that there is a danger to many of those meditation, and there was a negative.
Can I tell you a personal story? I had a patient once who got very involved in what's called Vipassana meditation. It's 10 days of silence. You are not allowed to speak, and you can just meditate. Fast forward, that patient had quite a breakdown later, a psychotic breakdown. But before that happened, I felt, look, I want to understand what my patients go through. So I actually enrolled in it. And I enrolled in the Vipassana meditation course. It was in Israel, actually. It was near the Galilee.
Oh, you see, so my example before of Israel was pretty good.
It was excellent. I stayed for 4 days and then I left. I could have stayed for the whole time. I didn't have a problem not speaking. But what I realized is there was something so cultish about it. I could feel the people who were running it. I could feel this sort of manipulation. They were allowed to speak. We weren't. Um, and I could feel that it was not healthy to simply be in one's own mind in silence for that period of time. So I actually have very firsthand experience with this. But how did this come about that in the West we started exploring, let's call them meditative techniques? It arose out of the realization that we need some way to reduce stress. Stress leads to more illness, both mental and physical. People who are less stressed, have less anxiety, do better, they're happier in life, they have better health, they have stronger immune systems. There are clearly benefits to that.
And also, I do agree and acknowledge very much that today, anxiety, you hear it in many different levels where parents will come with their children, even in the school system, or in other settings where the rabbis, I'll sit with one-on-one with a person, I'll say, what is your number one problem? And they'll say anxiety. Society itself created us to be a little bit, I think a lot of it has to do with technology, has made us so crazy that now we are anxious. So what is an eitzah? What is a formula for able to fight anxiety?
Well, there are many, many approaches. The classic approach that's used in treatment, in mental health treatment, frankly depends on the body, and the most basic one involves breathing. Abdominal breathing, which we know then stimulates what we call the vagus nerve, and then our breathing slows down, our heart rate slows down, our blood pressure goes down, and we relax. Some people just took that farther along and then attributed to that, essentially we're drawn to things that perhaps have teachings, like there's yogic philosophy, there's Buddhist philosophy, et cetera, et cetera. I recently heard a very interesting interview with a man whose name is Noam Orbach, and he wrote a book on the Jews of China. A very interesting book on how the Jews first arrived to China, going back, quite a long ways. And he also for a while he learned Chinese, became very proficient in Chinese and Far Eastern customs, and explored all of those sorts of meditative practices associated with some of the major religions out there and philosophies, and came to a very interesting conclusion. And in the end, by the way, became a Baal Tshuva because of this. He said, I tried all of these things, and yes, you could relax, maybe it lowered your stress, but that's where it stopped. It didn't go any further. You wanted to transcend in life. Let's put it that way. It's not only about relaxing, it's about de-stressing in order to have the opportunity to transcend. And for that, you need some kind of greater guidance that is, for example, present in Yiddishkeit. Yeah.
Again, the fact is that we do live in a stressful world. Finance is one area of stress. Peer pressure, another area of stress. Teenagers today, tremendous stress. The fact, again, the technology, if you're not quick enough and move enough,
ubiquitous
the areas. Yeah. And I think that, first of all, when I speak to young people, the first thing I ask them is, do you do physical exercise? And how much does physical exercise bring about relaxation?
Mm-hmm. Tremendously. Predominantly aerobic exercise, right? That's what lowers our blood pressure and our heart rate.
Okay, so let's go now. So we're talking, our conversation is beyond. We're talking about someone who does exercise, or at least 4 times a week, 3-4 times a week. That is a must for people to do exercise. And by the way, I believe it's a religious obligation as well. Doing the exercise, to basically to be healthy, to eat healthy, to do exercise is a must. Now,
you need to take that message to some of these neighborhoods in Brooklyn where I see too many Hasidim with a pouch out to here.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
Yes. First of all, their answer is true. Particularly rabbis and spiritual leaders and rebbitzins. We have to, if we stand in front of our classroom, we stand in front of our congregation, we have to look the part. And looking the part means, just like I don't want someone there puffing away at a cigarette because
Right.
cigarettes are a danger. I don't want them to eat donuts because eating donuts is also a danger.
Correct.
Now, I have nothing against any of the bakeries. We can save the donuts for twice a year, Hanukkah and maybe
Right.
a birthday party.
But agreed that proper diet and exercise is an integral component to reducing stress and keeping our anxiety levels more manageable. Absolutely agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about these who talk about and preach about meditation. Is there good meditation versus negative meditation? I mean, I will say there's a meditation that is somewhat what I would refer to as physical meditation.
Right. Yoga is another example of physical meditation, correct?
Well, yoga has a religious overtone.
Doesn't have to, though. Doesn't have to. You can read and learn about yogic philosophy, or you can simply learn the yoga positions and do yoga.
In 1979, at the Yud Beis Tammuz Farbrengen, the Rebbe, the fifth Sikha, the Rebbe spoke about that. I've studied this Sikha many, many times because of, amongst my own colleagues, the Rebbe basically brilliantly laid out the concept of meditation, and he said, if you can dissect the actual exercise of meditation from the spirituality of meditation, you may have a product. But I think there's something else that you said, and we know, particularly when we talk about, again, back from Israel, that sometimes quantity creates a quality. And there's a difference of someone who's going to sit for 5-10 minutes and meditate and relax versus someone who's going to lock himself up in a room for 4 hours and meditate. And that's not called relaxation. That's called we are maybe touching into another side, which may be, in fact, you said dangerous before.
Yeah. I'm thinking what you're reminding me of is actually the beginnings of the work that Freud did. Freud, his first therapeutic technique, his second therapeutic technique he tried was the use of cocaine, but he realized that was not a very good path to go on. The first was actually hypnosis. What are we talking about when we're talking about meditation or hypnosis? We're talking about entering a different level of consciousness.
Yes.
Right. So is it possible to take advantage of those different levels of consciousness? I see it, for example, when I'm at a Farbrengen. And individuals at the Farbrengen, they start drinking a little alcohol. I'm not a drinker myself, but I see it. The use of alcohol can be disinhibiting and put you in a slightly different state of alcohol. But what's the difference between a Farbrengen and sitting alone for an hour and meditating? You both are putting you in a different state of consciousness. The Farbrengen is being guided, and it's being guided in an intellectual, a spiritual, and responsible way that's supposed to bring someone closer to God. But when you're sitting home alone, all kinds of nonsense can be entering your mind from nowhere.
You now open up perhaps for another show to talk about, but it is so very true. A difference between one Farbrengen versus another Farbrengen. Yes, it's okay to have a drink and change your level of consciousness if there is someone guiding that Farbrengen. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I also, the time is moving, and I don't want to lose the opportunity of talking about a relaxation technique where you're doing a few breathing exercises or even meditating. We're not talking about meditating for hours. We're talking about just closing yourself off and taking a few moments to just relax. Or there's another word that's being thrown out today, being mindful of your surroundings or being mindful of where you're at. Shea, you're upset. Relax. There's a whole situation going on. Your opinion is not the only opinion out there. Or particularly, as my father once told me, remember, to you and your family, things are important. But when you marry into another family, their ideas and their family is important. So now you have two clashing. Imagine when you have a simcha, when there's a number of families getting together with different. Sometimes it's just being mindful of where I sit and where my position is.
To be mindful, we can't be stressed, right? We can't be distracted. Great example. You asked. You can't be sitting there for hours doing it. Herbert Benson, very excellent physician, internist from Harvard, who developed the Mind-Body Institute up at Harvard and wrote the book called The Relaxation Response. It's precisely what you're talking about. And what he recommended doing is by using abdominal breathing, okay, not more than these exercises, with some type of mantra. If you do it enough, all you have to do is say the mantra, and in seconds, you immediately are more relaxed. So clearly there are ways that are not dangerous for us to achieve higher levels of relaxation. No question. Okay.
When I hear the word mantra, again, I get alert.
Just talking about a word. I got to tell you something. There are people I've heard.
Shema Yisrael. You can actually.
I know. I had a patient who had terrible recurrent migraine, headaches. The only thing that would get rid of the headache, no medicine helped, would to get in a cold shower with the cold water against the head where the headache was, the migraine was, and repeated Shema, Shema, just one word, Shema, 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 Shema. That's what I mean by it, so that you don't misunderstand. It's merely a word which then evokes a response of relaxation or being less alone or whatever it is.
Or helps you focus and move to that other level of consciousness.
Correct.
Sometimes what we need is what we call a trigger, and we know there's sometimes negative triggers. Implanting within yourself a positive trigger that as soon as I say the word Shema, I get more relaxed, or I'm able to shift my state of mind and thought. And again, we're not anti-relaxing, meditating, thinking,
Right.
But the religious overtones, and particularly as you mentioned, the hours of meditation, I have found that. You said it from a clinical thing that really sort of damaging their thought process.
Yeah.
I find that it's also Yiddishkeit-wise, they are putting their trust sort of in somewhere else. Sometimes it's doing the mitzvah that will also help you shift your mindset and see where you are.
Well, I think there's something similar about relaxation and what you call doing the mitzvah, which is essentially placing your focus somewhere so that you block out the noise that is contributing to all the stress. So there is something similar about the two of them, for sure.
The other thing that you spoke about, you mentioned about before, Verbringen.
Yeah.
And Nigun, a song. Sometimes simply just playing the song on various different types of electronic devices today. But sometimes to sing a Nigun, to sing something, and really you can also transform in a few moments from one mind to another state of mind. Sometimes it's a joyous song, sometimes it's a more serious song, but it helps you shift your focus, and that can be such a difference. Where one moment I feel like a victim, and the other moment I can feel empowered that I am in control of my own life.
Mm-hmm. Correct. So there are multiple ways that people can reduce their level of stress so that with the ultimate goal of becoming more mindful, and for many people, becoming more mindful is even a predicate for getting closer to God, which is a wonderful reason to do it. But there are many different ways. There are certain exercises people can do in proportion, right? Not excessively. There is nigun, which especially if they sing it, it comes from deep within you. They could take a walk on the beach or out in nature. There are many, many different ways to achieve that level, to bring us to different level of consciousness away from the day-to-day noise so that we're able to focus on what is important to us, be mindful, and if it's for spiritual purposes, to then be able to make a closer connection to God, even in the form of just doing a mitzvah. Correct. Yeah.
Please let us know what you think. Ask us your questions. If there's a topic that you'd like us to discuss, let us know. If you have a guest, an idea of a guest, let us know as well. We are here to serve you and to give you both a doctor's point of view as well as a spiritual and rabbi's point of view.
And after this conversation, Rabbi, what are you going to do to relax?
I'm going to take a walk because I believe that not only thinking, meditating, but also sometimes visual can help relax as well.
Okay, great. Maybe we'll take a walk together, and my treat, I'll buy you a shot, okay?
Long as it's guided. Thank you, my friends.